Volt. This was my starting warframe. This frame can do a lot, from speeding up your entire squad, to enhancing your weapons, and even being able to nuke rooms. Volt can do it all. Just to get this out of the way, these are my personal thoughts, opinions, and experiences with Volt. I am by no means a Volt main, nor am I a Volt sweat, as some people like to call them. If you have different thoughts than what I do, that's perfectly fine, and I encourage you to have different thoughts. However, I'm only human, so if I get something wrong, I accept it. Now then, let's get into the video. Volt's passive is a interesting one that has some fun mechanics. The first part of it is that while you are running on the ground, you store a amount of damage in your weapons that is unleashed on your next attack. Whether that be a melee attack, or a ranged attack, or even a special attack that I'll talk about here in a little bit. You can store up to 1,000 damage, and it does not go over, but that would allow some weapons to deal with enemies very early, whereas others later on in the game won't even notice the jump in damage. But I'm sure you might be curious what I meant by funny things. We are here in the simulacrum, and as you can see, I've got my little charge there stored to 100%. Now, we're not going to use the Kodahima that I've got in my hand right now. We're going to use this, the Sunpoint Plasma Drill. So you may be used to using this with rocks or something else, but with Volt, you can actually turn it into a fairly decent weapon. At least on lower level targets. Because on its own, it only does damage very rarely with a crit. But Volt allows you to use the drill to do actual damage with his passive, as well as fishing spears that you can get from Cetus and Daimios. Not the Fortuna spears, because they function a little bit differently. But yeah, Volt can make the plasma drill deal damage. For Volt's first ability, we have Shock. Volt stretches out his hand and throws out a bolt of electricity that chains to multiple enemies, dealing electric damage. In the early game, this can be quite a useful ability for either killing enemies or simply stunning them if you need to. However, the damage does fall off rather quickly. However, later on, it can be very useful as a damage buffing tool due to his weapon augment. Shock Trooper increases yourself and your squad's damage by an amount equal to his power strength. Or variable by power strength, I should say. It is electric damage, and it does sometimes combine with your elements, so keep in mind that when you are running with some of your allies, so that you get good status effects, and not the bad ones, like magnetic. So I need to correct myself. As it says here, it adds electricity damage to weapon attacks. It does not combine with other elements. So I was wrong. It doesn't combine. Oops. Now we're moving on to perhaps Volt's most used and most well-known ability. And that would be his speed. Volt increases movement speed of himself and his teammates based on his power strength, and I believe his movement speed as well, because I know Volt cares a bit about movement speed. Yeah, if you have a high enough power strength with this, Volt, speed-wise, becomes nearly uncontrollable. I've gotten it quite high to where I can barely control it, and doing this to your allies makes it very hard for them to get out of that speed. So if you want to troll with Volt, that's one way you can do it. The augment for his speed is an interesting one, and I think it would be only useful in lower grinds. but it is certainly an interesting mod and something I think I would try later on. Most people who play Volt know this ability very well. His electric shield blocks all damage that is in front of him if you're carrying it, but you can deploy multiple shields as well, but you can only carry one at a time. However, he has several mods for this ability. One of them is called Recharge Barrier. It is from the Conclave, so you'd have to get it through the Nightwave shop. And if you or allies run through the barrier, you'll restore some shields, which I think is quite interesting. The other one is called Transistor Shield, which allows your allies to pick up the shield, and any damage that is blocked by the shield gets stored into Volt's passive ability. If you want to run these mods, you can only run one at a time, but I think it would be very interesting if you could run multiple at a time. For a long time in my history of playing Warframe, I did not use Volt's perhaps best ability. Note, this is in my opinion. Discharge is a massive AoE that stuns enemies, turns them into electrical rods, and with his capacitance augment allows you to restore a ton of shields to yourself and your allies. There was a long time where I had this Helminth over in exchange for something else, but after playing around with it a little bit in ESO, I have found it to be a extremely useful ability for clearing ESO and getting very close to being able to do rank 8 on my own. I haven't quite figured out the build yet to do it on my own, but I've come close. Now, you may be wondering, oh, Volt seems so cool, where am I able to get one? Well, one option is to buy him for platinum from the market, or you can pick him as one of your starter frames at the start of the game. However, if you do not do either of those, you have to talk to people. This is the dojo, this is the Tenno Lab, and we'll scroll down, and this is where you have to buy Volt. You have to research him. The cost to research him varies on the size of the clan. Most of the time you're able to just join a clan and they'll probably already have Volt researched, but if not, you'll have to join a clan, research Volt. Otherwise, you can get the Prime. Prime's usually not super expensive off of the market. That's Warframe market. Don't use Trade Chat. And if you would rather farm him yourself, you have to get the relics from Barrow. This is for those of you who have just gotten your Volt to rank 30 and may be wondering what to do with him. Unlike my Excalibur video where I said don't invest in him, I would invest in Volt. While Volt Prime is an option, it is possible that you may never get that frame. You can get Prime through relics and the market, but there's the small chance that you may not want to get him. I wouldn't go totally crazy on Volt with Forma and stuff in case you do want to get a Volt Prime. Anyway, I would focus on strength, range, and movement speed with your Volt. He can make any weapon decent or good with his passive and his speed abilities. If you're looking to really use the passive, make sure you're using speed and some kind of weapon that deals high damage. If you would just rather do the spray and pray with a little bit of bump in damage, you can run something like the Amprex. It's a beam rifle. Lado is fun, and then any melee weapon can work as well. Even something as simple as the Dex Nakana, if you're able to get that from an event, or something like the Dual Ethers. We'll say now, you've managed to get lucky with Volt Prime, or you purchase him from the market. If you haven't, that's perfectly fine. The difference between base Volt and the Prime variant is 30 armor, which is nothing when it comes to armor, but the 150 energy that you get with Volt Prime is a bit more. You can always run a flow mod. I run a flow mod on my Volt Prime anyway, but if you feel like you need more, then run more. Now you have to kind of think about what you want to do with your Volt. For me, when I use my Volt, I usually want to just go fast. I'm usually playing with other people, and I just want him to go fast. Recently, though, I've been experimenting with some other things, so my build's changed a little bit. You can set yours up so that you can, spam out a ton of shields or kind of whatever. Volt's a jack of all trades, he can do it all. Now, this is a part where I honestly can't say much about Volt. This is usually where I talk about the meta or something that's really popular with Volt, but I can't speak on that. I would say at most my Volt is one tier below this because I don't play Volt much. I don't play a sweaty Volt or a meta Volt. I play Volt to have fun. For a time I tried to run him as an Eidolon Hunter, but I'm not an Eidolon Hunter. I couldn't do it. So, I'm not going to say much here. Now we come to the true end game of Warframe. Of course, it is Fashion Frame. With several other frames, this is going to be spoilers ahead, so just so you all know. With the release of 1999, you are able to get the Gemini skins.
I do love it when there's explosions.
So of course you can play as a mirror with your Volt if you wish to. I personally use the Volt Prime skin because I don't have any others. I have some Platinum, but I'm saving it for some stuff. I'm not very fashiony of a person, but this color, along with the attachments that I've got on there, suited me. And I kind of like this Sidana on the back. I like how the physics make it swish. Yeah, this is my Volt fashion. So, I'm gonna briefly talk about builds. The two builds I run are pretty similar. So this is a build based all around speed and buffing. So one thing, I have replaced my discharge with Empower, mainly to give myself more speed. Molt Augmented, Arcane Energize, just here to be here. You don't need to run these. The augment I'm using is Shock Trooper, and then 2 primed mods with Flow and Continuity, Streamline for a little bit of efficiency, Steel Charge simply to give me that bigger amount of capacity. I know I could run something else, but this is the one I had from before and I just haven't changed it. Blind Rage as a Corrupted, Augur Secrets for more strength, and Power Drift for more strength. So that is the speed build. Now we got the one that I'm kind of testing. This is a ESO build. So some of the same mods with Streamline, Primed Flow, Blind Rage, Primed Continuity, Augur Secrets, same augments and same aura. The changes though, instead of Shock Trooper, I am running Capacitance because I do have Discharge on this build. I'm also running Overextended for that additional range, and Archon Stretch for that additional energy restoration. I'm gonna say this, I'm not a Volt player. I play Volt when I want to have fun with my friends, or like with this build recently, I've been testing it with ESO. That's all. It's like I'm not a main. I just play Volt when I want to. Volt is a very fun frame. He's a very powerful frame, whether you get him at the start or if you get him later. From the early to mid to late game, and even doing some crazy stuff, Volt is more than capable of doing any and every content that is available in Warframe. He may be old, but he's seen a lot of love throughout the history of this game, and he is still able to hang with even the newest of frames that are released. I hope you've all enjoyed this little ranty 4 levels video that I've run. I am sorry that I'm not a Volt main, but if you've enjoyed, please leave a like, and if you've watched till the end, leave a comment as to how many times I've had to use a revive. Have a great one, y'all.